You killed a giant, and this deer was standing looking directly at your tree, and you took a head-on shot.
That deer was scissors that hunt, and he'd come in, and he had nowhere to go. Like, he had to go over a real steep bank the way I'd set my stand, and so he was either going to run the opposite way or he was going to turn. But then when he turned, he knew I was there. Like, he looked up, and you can just see the look in his eyes. He's like, "Oh crap," I mean, he's an old deer. Like, he knew what was up.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast, powered by DeerCast and Phorm Energy. Matt, Drury, it's flipping hot outside.
Tim Chelswick, it is hot outside, but it's going to be even hotter on this episode because we got a hell of a guest with us.
Yeah, we got Ben Rising from Whitetail Edge and DOD alumni.
What's up, Ben?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It is going. So Tim was mentioning how hot it's been. And, it's that time of year where everybody's getting cameras out and thinking about food plots. You just got back from Kentucky?
Yeah, I just literally pulled in the driveway 10 minutes ago. So
that you mentioned a little bit off air, but it's been an interesting summer because we've had, as food plotters, we always complain about rain or not enough rain, or then it's too much rain, but that's kind of been the problem. It's been nonstop pop-up showers this really all spring and summer. How have you combated that, or have you been able to?
Well, I've never battled weeds like I have this year in clover plots and like sedge, stuff like that. Like, it's just insane. So definitely have had to mow and spray a little more than I typically like to. I hate using chemicals, but you have to at times. Like, you just have to keep that stuff at bay. Otherwise you just lose your plot. You can mow the broadleafs out and stuff like that at times, but on years like this, the weeds are just out of control. The heat and the humidity it's been good for everything else. And it's been good for the foliage and the woods and, briars, and the deer antlers look great. Corn looks good. Beans look great, but there's always a price to be paid for some of that other stuff. But just like I was in Kentucky yesterday, and I actually did a story last evening because it wasn't supposed to rain at all. Weather guy said it was just fine. Wasn't going to go anywhere near that area. I sprayed 2 acres. And I no sooner and got done and was putting some cameras up, and I heard thunder in the distance. I'm sure it come right through there.
And ideally, how long do you want your chemical on there before it gets hit with a rain? Is it 24 hours or is it 2 hours?
Well, I mean, obviously the longer the better, but I think typically you're supposed to get at least 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
But it was pretty dry when I sprayed it. It had been drying all day. It had rained. It didn't rain there at all in the morning, but I guess north it did. So it got pretty hot, and it sucked it up when I sprayed it. It was pretty tall stuff. So I'm just hoping that, maybe I'll get lucky. It probably sat on there an hour before, and I use a good surfactant. So we'll just see.
How long will you wait?
Spring water, which spring water and like pond water, I think makes the chemical a little more active compared to like people that use city water or, so if people, here's a good tip. Like, if you use city water or stuff like that, that's treated, you need to add, like, what is it? Sulfur oxide or something to it that heats it up a little bit. Or there's a thing called turbo that you can add to your water, and it just makes everything work better within the water. I'm not exactly sure what it does, but a guy turned me on to that here at a local ag store. And dude, it makes a huge difference.
Matt's a scientist, and he could probably explain.
Well, you see, what happens is...
Well, actually...
Yeah.
This is the house of learned doctors.
But it does make a big difference. Like, but one of our properties is all spring-fed well water. And so like I use that water a lot, and it definitely works better than, and I don't have city water where I live, but I've used city water on some properties before, and definitely a big difference.
Yet again, the country is just being negative towards city things. The city.
It's the fluoride in the water.
Yeah, I don't know. The guy told me, he goes, you're going to notice the difference, and he was right.
That's interesting. I had no clue.
It'd be funny if he tasted the water.
Yeah.
This city water you flowing out here.
So as we talk about how these pop-up showers have been happening kind of all year, everything's looking great. But as you go into August here, as this airs, it's starting August. The age-old question for most guys, in the Midwest is, all right, do I plant early and try to catch one of these, early rainstorms, or, do I wait until closer to the end of August where, because that middle part of August, historically, you're going to have 2 or 3 weeks of a major 100-degree drought that just wipes everything out. But this has been an odd year because those pop-up showers have kind of sustained us all season long. And so what's a guy to do? Because I'm in the boat. I know Mark, Terry, everybody's kind of in the same boat. What does Ben Rising think going into August here? All the water we've had up to this point, what are you going to do on your plots?
Yeah, well, here's what my plan is. So I've got a place in Missouri I can plant to, and we were planning on actually planting it tomorrow, but the rain is going to hit there. So they're saying 70% chance of rain there tomorrow, and it's already wet there. So we're going to hold off because we can't make the trip and just get out there and it just wasted anyways. And I don't want to put the seed in the ground and it not work out. My local farmer there that can check on it for me, he said, well, if you want to plant rice, it'd be fine.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, okay. So I'm listening to him. He knows what he's doing. So we're going to wait. But the good thing is the moisture is in the ground. And a lot of times in August, you don't have the moisture in the ground and you get it in and you're hoping you're going to get a rain. So I feel like we're going to be good either way. So I'm going to get it in. The second we can get on the ground, we're going to get it in.
Okay.
And that way we'll take advantage of the moisture that is in the ground and get those seeds popped and get a good start.
Well, what if, and Mark and Terry had talked about that. I was with them this weekend. They were talking about that moisture in the ground. But what if you plant, the moisture's in the ground, that's all good. But then we hit that, say you plant the second week of August and then we get 2 weeks of no rain, super hot temperatures. So in essence, the seed popped out of the ground, but then what happens? I mean, is there enough moisture in the ground to sustain it from not getting anything other than dew, for moisture for 2 weeks?
Well, just my gut feeling is how much rain we've had. I got to feel like that it might pull through. You're going to get some scorcher days, but I do feel like it could, especially your brassicas, your turnips, your radishes, those kind of things, rape. Those things are pretty hardy. Yeah. Oats, stuff like that. It can, some of the seed is a little more, I guess, detrimental or, sensitive.
Clover.
Yeah, like clovers and stuff, But I feel like for the most part, like your chicories and all that, I think it'll be fine. I don't know for sure, I guess, but I got to say the way things are looking, we're probably still going to get some rain.
Yeah. I know, it's interesting, as much as we've gotten, Terry and Forrest, I believe they're still behind the 10-year average for this time of year. And
up in northern Missouri.
Yeah, up in northern Missouri. But Mark, I think, was way above. And I know in St. Louis here, I thought we were 5 or 6 inches past the 10-year average. And that's, I don't know how much you use it, Ben, but in DeerCast, the rain stations, you can go in there and it's giving you a 10-year average for the day, but we're actually working, hopefully here, in the coming weeks, months, whatever, I don't know, to have it to where the 10-year average will actually show you year-to-date 10-year average.
It'll be for the range of time that you select. So whether you want to see for the full year or you want to see for the year-to-date, you can set that up. Yeah. Same thing on the 30-year side.
Yeah. So it's pretty nice to be able to see kind of where you're at. Do you use the rain stations much in DeerCast?
Oh yeah, I have them set on all. But what I was going to say was, what we may not be ahead as far as I know it seems like, we've had all kinds of rain, but I guess what I'm getting it at is we've had a lot more rain later in the summer, than I'm used to having.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think like early on, it wasn't as much. And so like in Terry's case, that part of Missouri, I'm pretty positive is the same way. Was kind of like a little bit of a dry spell there. Then it hit. And then we just keep getting these pop-up showers here and there. So I think that's kind of where I'm saying like now the soil seems to be very well, like, cause I have this one place I can hunt. There's some levees on it that they close off for like waterfowl and stuff. The guy has it's enrolled in a WRP program. And long story short, those things are full right now of water, and they're never full this time of year.
Oh.
So that tells me right there that, there's been a fair bit of water here just lately.
Well, what's interesting, like Ellsbury, one of the areas that I hunt, it just this past weekend got hit with like a pop-up storm. They had like 8 or 10 inches flooded. Where like Casey's and all on Main Street, it flooded all those businesses and homes.
Dang.
Like they're saying a 500-year flood. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's either feast or famine. It seems like, you get that kind of rainfall and it's like, well, that's no good for anything.
Yeah. And you think about like microclimates, because you've got the elevation of the piece of ground that you're thinking about and how much wind does it get. And that will evaporate more water off of it, or how much sun versus shade. Like there's all these even more localized factors that go into how much moisture is going to be on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sportsman Channel is your home for Winchester and Drury's natural born. Join the cast on some of the most hard-hitting action on outdoor TV. See the full schedule at thesportsmanchannel.com.
Yeah, so I guess, I'd rather be too wet right now than too dry.
Sure. Yeah.
But I just hope we continue to get a little moisture after the plots.
Yeah, of course. So basically, as soon as things dry out enough, you're going to try to get seed in the ground.
Yes, absolutely.
So next 2 weeks, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And I typically plant 10th, 12th of August is typically my normal route. But, we're going to try to get them in, take advantage of the moisture in the ground now as much as, especially no-tilling. If you can no-till. Now, some of the stuff we'll till it and use a Packer Max to pack it in. But, for now, like that stuff there, most of that we can no-till, and there's a little bit of chaff on the ground, like killing the dead grass. We let it get a little bit tall. And a lot of times I like that because that also will kind of give that seed a little bit of a, shade cover to a degree.
Sure.
Yeah. So as we look ahead to the season, then I noticed, on your social media accounts, like you posted the other day, kind of a tip that, publicly and tip on trails and kind of where you like to hang your cameras or your stands. How has things changed for you in the last, say 5-10 years compared to the way you used to hunt maybe early on in your career, or have they? I mean, are you using some of the same tactics? You said like, hey, this is a tip, one of my big deer killing tips that I usually don't tell people. What's changing your mindset to kind of start going through that process a little bit more?
Well, Matt, I've been super blessed to kill some really good deer in my time. You know what I mean? I really have. Like and I guess I've kind of lost sight of it. Not lost sight, but it seems like, whenever somebody comes to my house, or like somebody new that hasn't been to my house, or like somebody that's maybe in the industry, or somebody that works with us as a sponsor, or like say a magazine writer or somebody like that, and they come here to visit or do something with me, and they walk into my living room and they're just like in shock. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like not expecting, like they've known that I've killed big deer, or, but I think they're just shocked at the sheer number of big deer. And I'm not bragging, because I see them every day, and there's numerous ones that aren't even hanging on the wall, and so I started thinking about that a little bit, and I'm like, and I've always been very open with the information on trying to be, through Whitetail Edge, using it as educational. And I think that's a lot of from the grassroots of being taught that through Mark and Terry, filming for you guys. It's just kind of how we all rolled. Like at Drury Outdoors, the goal was to be an educational show to a degree, entertaining, but also helping the viewers.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people like it so much. And so that was ingrained in me. And I guess, without a doubt, that's just kind of the style I've taken over too, just because that's what I was used to. That's how I was trained. I never filmed until I started filming for Mark and Terry. So, going 23 years ago, it's freaking hard. That's a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy to think about that. Back to the days when we were having meetings in Mark and Tracy's garage.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just nuts.
It is.
But things have definitely changed a lot. So I guess being that I feel like I've been blessed so much, it's like, why not help other people?
Mm-hmm.
Try to give them some tips, and things that I've gathered over the years. And, plus, let's just not kid ourselves. This space is just so crowded right now. This whole influencer and filming space, and, it's just different than what it was. So you kind of got to you got to take the gloves off and try to, you got to appeal to people, because I've noticed here in the past, some comments on my pages and stuff, things that we'll post or whatever, or guys will be like, this guy can't shoot worth a shit. Or,
seen those comments.
And the recipient of a few.
You're the least favorite Drury. What?
Yeah. Or, yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, this guy made a horrible shot. Like, I make usually typically really good shots.
Yes. Always been a good shot.
Yeah. But there's occasional time you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get these guys that might start hammering you that, or what a novice or an amateur who would make that,
who are
I'm
you?
realizing that people are watching me now that have no idea where I've been and where I've come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm special. It's just that they have no idea how many big deer I truly have killed, or just deer in general. So I'm not a novice or an amateur. So you're like, okay, how do I appeal to this group of people too?
You might try something that I've tried, and that's I just say, do you know who I am? And that usually kind of smooths things out.
Usually
real
there's
good.
no reply.
Yeah, that's weird. Or I get that UPOS acronym, whatever that means.
For.
Yeah.
Lost to time. It does bring up a good a point or a question I had for you, Ben, because you killed a giant. It's been maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, and this deer was standing looking directly at your tree, and you took a head-on shot and laced him. Like, it was a devastating shot. But I'm curious, what was some of the fallout on social from that,
if any?
Yeah, well, there was. Yeah, so it went both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, in my defense, and I had even stated, I don't know if I said it in the video, but in posts about it, I would never take that shot at 20 yards or out. I just won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But this deer was literally 12 yards, 12
close.
feet. I mean, I'm low in the tree anyways. I wasn't very high. I was only probably 12 feet off the ground, but I had a lot of cover around me, and I was tucked in with a cedar and a little honey locust tree. And that deer was scissors that hunt, and he come in, and he had nowhere to go. He had to go over a real steep bank the way I'd set my stand. And so he was either going to run the opposite way or he was going to turn. But then when he turned, he knew I was there. He looked up, and you can just see the look in his eyes. He's like, oh crap. I mean, he's an old deer. He knew what was up. But I mean, the very first deer I ever shot in my life, when I was 12 years old, I pounded that sucker right here with a slug gun.
Mm-hmm.
He was a little button buck, come down the hill and curved and was looking at me. And I was sitting in the lap beside an old man. His name was Don. And he was one of the guys that taught me how to hunt years ago with my dad. And, that little buck come down the hill, and I was, and he's just like, shoot him right there. He's like, just shoot him right in the cross,
mm-hmm.
And I shot that deer, and his legs flew up like this, and he bled everywhere, and he went down the hill 30 yards and died. And, because it just tore him up in there. Well, I've shot a few does the same way, so I knew I could do it, and honestly, it's just one of those things when I think when you've hunted so long, or you have that killer instinct, that was just that was the moment I had. I knew it was then or never. If that deer turned, he was going to run, and it was so thick around there. I wouldn't have had another shot. A lot of times they'll see that, they're not sure. They'll run like 10 feet, stop and look back.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that opportunity there. I was not going to have enough shooting because I was literally right in the heart of it. So I knew that it was now or never. And luckily I had drawn at full draw because I kind of knew the situation, and I had come to full draw plenty of time early, walking him in. Yeah. And so I was ready. And so I just buried that pin right where I knew I had to. And I mean, he literally died 6.5 seconds, lights out. You can see it on film. I counted it 6.5 seconds. He was done,
I think it's a difference of an old school hunter versus maybe a new school train of thought. Whereas like,
if you're watching it.
Yeah. Cause you mentioned like, whoever, Don or whoever it was that taught you, way back when. And that was probably a pretty, it's like headshots, and it's things that now
right behind the ear.
Yeah. Right behind the ear. It's a much different, a rifle hunter or a slug gun hunter or whatever. It's a different thought process of almost a different kind of a killer instinct back then versus now, and ethics and morals. And hey, we do it on video, so other people are watching and kids are watching and blah, blah, blah. Yep. There's a lot more that goes into the thought process of shot angle. And I think that's probably, but is it any less lethal? The answer was no. If you know where to shoot and you pull it off, right?
And the reason I say that I wouldn't take that shot at a very long distance with a bow is because there is a very large area for error there. Like if that deer just enough, you're getting into the shoulders, meat, or you may be slicing him through the neck. So it's not worth it. It's just, that deer, was no way he could get away from me. I mean, literally it was like he was at the end of my broadhead. You know what I'm saying? Like the arrow had to go 10 feet.
Yeah.
It was that close. So I'm like, you're toast.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just that killer instinct in you takes over, and that's just not every, and again, like, a lot of people have that instinct. Some people just don't, but like people like, Mark and other people that, I've been around. And I mean, I know some guys that don't film at all are extremely great hunters, and they just have that killer instinct. And like, they don't even think twice about certain shots. Like they know they can make that shot or whatever, and they execute. Again, now filming these days, you kind of have to really be careful because, we are trying to teach people ethical shots and things like that. But I think going back to your point, like the old school days of like, like Don's case, Don grew up having to kill deer to eat them.
Yeah.
In the hills of West Virginia. Like that was dinner. Like it wasn't just, he was out for sport. That was literally freezer meat for them as, growing up as kids and as an adult. And so like they took whatever shot they could get to get that deer
dead,
dead. Didn't matter if they had to shoot him in the hips to get him slowed down and they'd catch up. That's what they did. They didn't care.
Well, some of those sustenance hunters, I know that was the main argument for putting it right behind the ear, is that you don't waste any meat when you do that. Yeah. So just a different time.
Yeah.
You can eat the brain. What am I going to tan this hide with now? I don't have any brains.
But you think about it, Native Americans or whatever, you see some of those illustrations, old illustrations from, our history and how they would go after buffalo or whatever. I mean, it's not a pretty...
Drive them off a cliff.
It's not a pretty thing. It's whatever you got to do to kill the animal.
They look like a pincushion.
Exactly. It's just now, obviously, with technology and the evolution of how we hunt, there's a lot more that's anything, we think more about ethics in anything now than they did 200 years ago, 300, 400, whatever.
I think about some of the people who get militant about technology in hunting. But if you were to go back let's go back 200 years, 250 years and give like a Cherokee Native American a bow, a modern bow, they'd be like, Heck yeah.
I'm gonna shoot 1,000 yards.
Yeah. I'm gonna kill some stuff with this thing. I think they'd be tickled to death to have something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, like, I guess in today's standards, like, most people really aren't hunting to survive nowadays. I mean, yes, they're hunting for the freezer too, but their life doesn't depend on it.
Mm-mm. So, you know, it's interesting, you know, I think as you look at it, I think about like dream season years and years ago. I think it was Eric Hale took a shot that a deer was slightly quartering to on one of our group hunts. Mm-hmm. And Mark, you know, kind of his initial reaction was kind of chewed him out. And we got a lot of heat from that. Back then, that was like early like message board days, chat rooms and stuff like that. Yeah. And I still see that comment come up from time to time. But then we also had a lot of people, like if I see now comments come through that if you don't take an ideal shot, you feel the heat. Like you just get a lot of crap over it. And it's just like, I don't know, man. It goes through the back of you have that killer instinct. I am more of a timid hunter, and the fact that stuff like that, I think about like, all right, I got to wait for the right shot angle. And if I don't get the right shot angle, I don't take the shot. And it's just like that. I wish I didn't have that in the back of my mind sometimes because I often think like I could have killed that deer if I never see that deer again, which has happened to me several times, like giant deer. And I didn't take the shot because it just wasn't perfect. But then I think, you know, guys like you or Mark or whatever, it's like you just find a way to make it happen. And if the camera wasn't there, would I have took the shot? Mm-hmm. Probably yes. I wouldn't have this like person, this
almost literally on your shoulder,
talking in your ear. Like, well, what if you mess up? You know, it's just like I don't need that doubt creeping into my psyche, but yet it's there. And guys like you, Mark, whatever, it's just like killer instinct just takes over. Nothing else even matters. It's like I'm gonna make this happen, and you do, right? And I don't know how you get over something like that. Most guys don't have to deal with that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I grew up with a camera next to me, so it's always been front of mind. I don't know any other way, right?
Yeah. Well, and you know, your dad was probably very, I don't know how you'd say it, very critical or, you know, whatever with you on say this now, say that, do this, do that.
Yeah.
Like, almost makes it not fun because I've done that. I did that same thing with my kids.
Yeah. That is the right
literally,
answer. Growing up, it makes it not fun.
Yeah, because like it does, because, you know, there was a while you stepped back. I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I've seen it with my own boys, you know, like they all like to hunt and I think they all like still do, but they could give a crap about filming it. Like,
yeah.
That's just to them is just like, you know, now Briar likes to turkey hunt. He likes my youngest and he likes to film that, or, you know, he doesn't mind that as much, but he still is not all into the like creating the, you know, like the talking about it, the hero part, or like we did this, you know, he's just like, man, I had fun. I just shot a turkey.
Yeah. Can it be that simple?
Like, let's not ruin it, you know? So I get that. And, you know, I kind of feel bad that it was kind of that way at times, that I was so focused on like, well, we're trying to make the right video or do this or, you know, so that's probably just always been, plus you've seen firsthand all the keyboard warrior comments.
Yeah.
I mean, for years and years and years, you know, going all the way back to those bow hunter forums and chat rooms where before social media,
you
know, like literally just crazy talk. And we still deal with it today. You know, people literally just like to piss you off. Like
it's got something up their ass for some reason.
I mean, it's what they want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like they got nothing better to do. But like, you know, I'm also always kind of like, man, okay, I may not agree with something that I watched or saw, but I'm not going to comment about it. What's it going to change? That's like a No Kings protest. It doesn't change anything.
You're right. You're 100% right. I can't.
You know, let's go stand in the middle of a road and protest. But it's not going to change anything. You're just wasting your time. Go to work.
Get a job. Yeah. I saw a picture of a guy at one of these TAC events, and he was so laden with gear and doodads and stuff. And I literally was like, I'm having a hard time picking out where the person is in that pile of stuff. But what I didn't do was leave a crappy comment. I just moved on, but I made a note to myself that I was going to talk about it on the podcast. But it's not going to help. It's not going to help him like that.
If he's having fun and he's enjoying it,
yeah,
like great. I still get tore up to this day for the comment I made 4 years ago. I think it's now, about my view on crossbows at certain times of the year, in season.
Oh.
Or like how I felt like crossbows have truly affected, our population of deer or whatever in Ohio. And I wasn't saying don't use a crossbow or you should never use one. I wasn't saying it. I was just saying I've truly seen a result because it's brought a lot more people in the woods during that time of year.
Yeah.
Now, looking at that, a trad hunter can say the same thing about me. I understand that. Like, well, shooting that, compound bow is cheating. You're no better than a crossbow hunter because they're walking around with, sticks and string and they feel like they're the ultimate naturalist. And so everybody has their different views. And I get it. Like trad hunters are like, you can't get any more than a traditionalist, back to the roots. I don't feel, unless you're Tim Wells and you're using a spear.
Yeah.
Even in those guys, it's like, do you make your own arrows? Do you nap your own
Some of them do.
broadheads? Yeah. So even within trad hunting, there are levels of how much fidelity you have to the model.
Exactly. So I feel like it's just, and I hate it that people took that comment that way because I wasn't like saying you shouldn't shoot crossbows or whatever. Like all my kids grew up. That's how they first started hunting deer was with a crossbow, even before a gun, just because we could hunt earlier. The weather was better. It was getting them out in the woods. And I don't have a problem with it. I was just saying that like it brought a lot more people into the woods. And one thing that I see here in Ohio a lot is, because you can bait in Ohio. Okay. And so what I see a lot of kids growing up now, they think that deer hunting is looking at a corn pile with a crossbow hanging out a box blind or a ground blind window.
Yeah.
Like they think that's deer hunting and that's the only way to deer hunt. And, the deer get used to that and you see a lot of deer like that. So I was just saying that, like, I feel like we're kind of getting away from the woodsmanship and, all that. And even though, and you can say that about a lot of things, like from trail cameras now to cell cams to, all this different technology. We have range finders, different things like that. It has definitely made us all way more effective deer hunters without a doubt, so you could go down that rabbit hole for days, but I think it's just, we just got to remember, like, okay, we're all on the same team. We're all going to disagree at certain things, but we don't all have to argue on social media about it. Fixed heads to expandables like that. They're just, make a post about that, which one you like the most. And I mean, you get a gazillion comments.
Heavy arrows, light arrows. Yeah.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah. I get tore up all the time for my good looks and personality. It just gets old after a while.
Yeah.
I don't think so, Tim.
Ben, one of the questions I wanted to toss your way is about summer scouting, especially for guys that maybe hunt more timber than they do around ag, where you can drive out and just glass bean fields. Like, in addition to trail cams, is there anything else that a guy can do to start to hone in on good bucks during the summertime?
Well, if you're in like just lots of big wooded country and you literally have zero ag right now, I mean, obviously I feel like this time of year, most of those bucks are in the valleys. Like most of them right now are down in, what wet areas or swampy areas that they can find, or creek bottoms where there's lots of vegetation growing, different types of, vegetation to eat on. As the summer moves on and, acorns start to form in certain areas, and not every ridge is going to have acorns. So I feel like that's something the guy needs to do now, is scout for that.
Those valleys, are they in there because of the vegetation, but is there a temperature component to that too?
It's cooler. I mean, I feel like cooler vegetation, water, it's been so hot this year too. Like, water's a huge factor. And I think like there's just more, it's just more appealing to them to be down in those flatter bottoms this time of year,
Sure.
and then they'll start to work. And there's little meadows tucked throughout the hill country, and then you always got some farmer that's making hay or has some clover, a cattle pasture that he mows off rotationally, and, volunteer clover coming into that. Guys in Kentucky, West Virginia, parts of Ohio, we experience that a lot, those kinds of things. But there's just typically enough ag anymore that, a lot of times those deer are still going to they'll walk a long ways to find those cornfields and bean fields, this time of year. But like I tell everybody every year, like I have certain farms that I hunt on, or pieces in the hill country that I don't even see a buck on camera till September, October.
Oh.
Like they don't even come in or even show back up to those areas until that time of year, once the crops are off, even if the crops are way far away.
Mm-hmm.
And different things have changed. Leaves start, they start working their way back up into the hills. Not that they won't be in the bottom still, just, food sources change, their mood changes, just things change differently.
Yeah. What about actually being in the timber? Is there any like way of getting into the timber without doing more damage than good?
For scouting?
Well, I mean, I feel like, again, there's certain ridges and certain valleys that are hotter than others, and so I feel like you have to sacrifice some areas. Like, okay, if you're honed in on a hot ridge or a hot, hillside that there's a lot of white oaks hitting, or they're hitting, acorns or whatever of any species that's hitting better there than somewhere else. If there's a back door into that ridge to hunt it,
Mm-hmm.
or that hillside, that's the way you come in. Yes, you may be traipsing through the timber and busting some deer, but hopefully you have somewhat figured out maybe a pattern of what 90% of the deer like to do, or where they're coming from, or where they're going to be hanging out. And if you can slide in there and up over the hill and get to that spot, through the timber from another way. So, and a lot of times in hill country, you just got to walk a long way out of your way to get there, But that's why I gave that tip the other day about the road crossings. Because a lot of public land in Southern Ohio is just vast, huge, acreage timber. And one of the quickest ways to narrow that down is find those deer crossings, where they're crossing those dirt roads and different things, and figuring out how they're getting from one hillside to another, and kind of pins down, you can take gazillion trails throughout that whole 1,000-acre hillside, and they're narrowing down to certain points crossing to another hillside.
Well, that tip also gives your trail camera the greatest ability to kind of maximize its potential for its trigger distance. Most trail cams are good 60 to 100 feet out, but that's all impacted by clutter that's in between the sensor and whatever is supposed to be triggering it. So you get on a roadway or, a logging road or something, then you've got a clear shot for that sensor to kick off at its maximum distance, which
it's just hurt. Like creek crossings, like walking ditches and creeks, finding those spots where all the game wants to cross those creeks, especially if you've got like a small river or a small creek that, a large creek that holds a lot of water at times, with deep banks, there's certain specific spots they want to cross. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the timber trails will converge at those spots. And they're great places to pick up game movement and monitor what's going on.
Do you find yourself, once the season gets rolling, do you find yourself hanging stands down in those low areas? Because I always often think, like, if you're thinking about terrain in that way, and you got all these hillsides kind of coming down towards this creek crossing or embankment or whatever, and there's usually a low flat area in there where the creek is. But do you have issues with your wind swirling through there? Like, I always want to hunt those spots, but I think, man, outside of the rut, there's really not a good time to hunt this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, again, and I've talked about this before too. Obviously, the thermals are a huge factor. But like, there's certain mornings you can get away with hunting in those bottoms. Like when you've got those cool rising thermals, like it's a frosty morning and those thermals are rising, you can get away with hunting some of those spots, 3-4 hours in the morning, and they can be magical, but I typically suggest that, like, if there's a particular deer moving through that spot, you wait for that kind of day to hunt that spot. Don't burn it out, you know? And the other thing is you can use the creek as access for stuff like that at times.
Yeah.
But another trick too is you find where those places are, you back trail them up the hillsides a little more to get your wind a little more consistent. You know, I've noticed a lot that a lot of the deer don't really run the ridge tops. They do, you know, they'll go up on the flats and use them, but they seem to be a lot of times the bigger buck travel is 3/4 up the hill, a quarter from the top.
Yeah.
You know,
kind of running parallel with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they'll curve down to those creek crossings, you know.
Yep.
How do you caveat your summer intel with actual hunting season movement? Because, you know, it seems like my experience has been once they like our season starts here in September 15th, and it's like you may have watched a deer very consistently all summer, and then the velvet drops and they're just a ghost. They're gone. How do you kind of marry that information with your hunting strategy for the actual season?
Well, velvet, my term is velvet can be fool's gold.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you at least know they're around, you know. But a lot of times what happens is they just lose their velvet, and those deer, their hormones change at that time. Like they just kind of go underground. Like it's like Jekyll and Hyde. Like they're going through this transitional phase where they're just like, I always say they just feel weird. You know, they're just kind of like they're getting moody. They're feeling weird. Things are changing. Their hormones are starting to ramp up a little bit. They're getting a little more dominant, in a sense, like, you know, the mature bucks, and they just kind of want to, you know, be left alone for a little bit. And I think that always hits at the same time that the acorns are starting to hit the ground. And so they kind of just disappear for a bit, and everybody's like, crap, where'd they go? Like, and sometimes they have just shifted from a summer pattern to a fall pattern, completely left the area. But a lot of times they haven't. It just depends on the food sources in the area and if there's plenty there for them. And if those deer feel safe, a lot of times they're not going to move or shift. But then there's times they shift a lot. Like I've noticed, and I talked about this, you know, Javen asked me to do an update yesterday. And I talked about this, that like, you know, in states that like Kentucky, Ohio, and places that like are bait states and guys that can run feeders, or Kansas where they can run feeders consistently. I feel like those deer don't shift hardly at all. Like I notice a lot of times those deer, until like rut, then they start venturing.
Yeah.
But those deer seem to be content. They kind of hang in the same farms. They're used to getting fed like that. They like that. I know that's a big case in Ohio. Like I hardly ever see the deer leave. Like the same deer I'm seeing in the summer, I see them in the fall. Now you get to Illinois, places like Iowa, Missouri, where you can't feed deer. It's a different story. I feel like those deer do shift a lot more compared to others. Cause like some of the places I hunt in Illinois, I'm getting 0 velvet pictures right now, but I know come September, October, bam, they're going to be there and they show up.
Fool's gold. I like it and I hate it.
Yeah. But it is tough because like a lot of times I wish I could, you know, I get on these podcasts and I do these things and I like, sometimes I need to like check myself at times during hunting season. And it's like, why am I struggling so much? You know, like maybe I need to ask myself some of these own questions at times, but sometimes, man, it's just hard. Like you think, you know, spots, or you think, you know, deer, and even guys like me that have hunted for years and years and have killed a lot of good deer. We have tough times, you know. I mean, if I just want to go out and kill a deer, that's different. But if I'm trying to kill specific deer in a specific age class, it can be a challenge, you know, especially when you're hunting farms that, you know, aren't truly dialed in spots, or like you're just knocking on doors, or a public piece, or, you know, and I do finally have the ability to own some dirt now. And, you know, we can kind of somewhat create the habitat and the destiny a little bit. But I've noticed too, even in those spots, sometimes I feel like the more we go in and do to a farm, sometimes it seems like the less bigger deer are there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe more deer, but not the deer. Yeah.
Like I say that all the time, and I know that's not exactly a great plug for food plot seed and stuff, but I mean, I feel like you can do certain things, but I feel like you can do too much.
Yeah.
At times, and I use this old analogy, like growing up, I always remember these certain farms that these guys would drive the snot out of them. Like guys would bow hunt them. The people would let anybody hunt. They would drive them when gun season would come in. And there was always a slob got killed on that farm every year, and nothing was ever done to that place. But then you get places around it that guys are truly trying to do the right thing and this and that. And they go kill a 180 on Grandma Ethel's farm that she let everybody in the neighborhood hunt.
Yeah.
Less deer, but that's where he was at.
Yeah. It's just weird, but it might have been thicker. It might have been, somewhere he's hiding out in some little woodlot somewhere. That's the thing that, it's like he's purposely staying away from the rest of the herd.
The guy that killed him was smoking a Marlboro Light and had a great cover scent going and was undetected.
There's no room for compromise in your hunting knife. That's why Cold Steel has built a reputation for crafting the toughest, most reliable blades on the planet. From the versatile click and cut to the innovative hunting kit, every Cold Steel knife is a tool that you can trust. Strong, durable, ready for anything. Get yours today at coldsteel.com and experience the difference for yourself.
All right, Ben, we got a game for you before we head out here. And we'll let him pick. Actually, there's two choices here. We could play a game called Rising or Falling. It's a hot take game. Basically, you have to say whether we throw something out at you, a strategy or a gear or whatever, trend. You have to say if it's rising, worth the hype, or falling, overrated. Or we could play a Whitetail Would You Rather. And basically, it's just rapid fire would you rather questions that we throw out at you.
Well, why don't you guys pick what you feel the viewers would want to hear most?
All right, Tim, go for it.
How about Rising or Falling? Because it's just kind of...
Well, it's got Ben's name in it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Got to be popular with the people.
Okay. All right. So let's jump out. Okay. So Rising or Falling, saddle hunting.
Oh, absolutely rising.
Rising. Now, would you ever do it?
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I mean, I experienced it last year. I've never been in the saddle, but my camera guy uses one a lot. And I got to say that was very effective for us. Like, it was very convenient to a degree.
Great for a camera guy.
But from what I have experienced with it, like you still have to carry your sticks in. You still got to hang your sticks. You're still hanging a platform. I just don't see a big advantage for me. That's why I've never done it, yet. And I'm old school. So like, I feel like I can hang, 4 3-foot sticks and, a Novix Echo or a Hilo just as fast as anything. And I'm done. And, and I'm hunting. I don't see there to be a lot of advantage for me to have a saddle yet. Like, a lot of guys say, well, you can trek way back into, public land and all this stuff. Well, I get it, and like I've literally been in the Novix booth, because they're one of my sponsors. And guys literally come up and argue over a half a pound.
Oh yeah. The weight weenies,
this setup over here is this, or it's a pound more by the time, and they're literally standing there with their calculator on their phone and add up what their total setup will be. So I'm just like, and I stand there being a logger and a timber cutter my whole life, dragging a 25-pound chainsaw around the woods and gas cans and oil cans and pulling cable on log skidders and going back to the days when I was carrying big game XLs and 20-foot sticks a mile on the public ground. And I'm like, maybe you should go fishing. Take up golf.
These same guys,
I just don't get it. So and I'm not knocking those guys. That's just what they're into. And it's cool because it's really added a lot of hype to the bow hunting sport. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying it's not a good thing. It's just that I'm having a hard time being 51 years old, wrapping myself around that yet. But I do know there's a huge market for it. And I'm not saying I won't try it, because I think I probably will at some point, just to see if I like it. But I watch it and I go, man, I don't know if I could shoot like that, or I feel like I might be fidgeting too much.
Swinging around.
I'll give you a primer on saddles. You'll be like Happy Gilmore, and I'll be like Chubbs. It's all in the hips.
It's all in the hips.
All in the hips.
All right, next one. How about the heavy arrow trend? Is it rising or falling in your mind?
Man, I honestly guess I don't know, because, I'm like the least technical archery guy out there. Like literally, like I mean, you're talking to a guy that, like, I grew up shooting whatever was given to me at first.
Yeah.
A lot of things didn't match, but if you could hit your target, that was the main thing. Like, hit them. They'll die with a field point if you hit them where they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's just kind of, the Indians used to shoot freaking rocks tied to the end of a stick and kill deer.
Yeah.
So it's all about hitting the deer where you're supposed to hit them, to me. Like, because I have a lot of guys tell me that, like, well, you didn't get a pass through. Well, yeah, but the deer's dead at 40 yards. What's it matter?
Doesn't.
It doesn't. I'm using a big, large expandable. Yes. Maybe if my arrow was a little heavier, it would have punched through, but it's the same. I got the result I wanted.
It's hard to argue. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I feel like that trend it's just more the guys that are into technical stuff, and that's what they enjoy about it. Like, they love building arrows. They love, and I just don't. I don't love that part of archery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just don't. Like, I love to shoot my bow, but I'm not a tech guru. I just love making things bleed.
We're going to say falling.
That should be the title for the episode.
Love making things
bleed.
Okay,
I've got one more. Rising or falling face paint camo.
Oof.
I think falling.
Yeah. There's
especially since Jennings just got nailed.
I was gonna bring that up. There was a guy in our industry that got I guess was it Kansas where he got busted.
I think so.
And I saw a lot of social media people saying, like, it's the face painters.
What is it with face paint and breaking the law?
Yeah.
So quick story about that. I don't know that guy from Adam. I've never met him, but one of my sponsors I talked to the other day, they asked me if I knew him, and I said, no, I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even know. Yeah. I honestly didn't, and I'm not being a jerk about it. I just didn't know. I don't watch a lot of other TV shows and stuff. But they said, well, we met him last year or the year before. He came up to us and wanted to work with us. And I was like, oh, really? And they're like, we're just glad we didn't. They go, but like, he kind of committed his own suicide. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And they go, well, he walked up to us and he said, hey, how you doing? I'm, do you know who I am? And they're like, no, sorry, we don't. Like, should we know you? And he goes, well, I'm, blah, blah, blah. And by the time we're done with this meeting, you're going to know who I am. And it just like sealed his coffin right there. Like, we're not working with that.
There's something wrong with that? Because that's how I'm sure you all probably know me here.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just kind of like,
dang,
and that's just shows you that somebody trying so hard to be somebody, and their motives really aren't in the right spot.
Literally a black eye on our industry.
Yeah.
You said a black eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. See what I did there?
Yeah. What I don't understand about the face paint camo is that usually guys that put it on symmetrically. If I were to use it, I would want it to be like I don't want a symmetrical face. I want something that breaks up the
anytime you're putting designs in, it's like, well, are you doing it for concealment?
When you're doing designs, you're wearing makeup.
Yeah.
You might as well just be wearing makeup at that point. Like,
which I'm not opposed to.
Face mask.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's good people on both sides.
Yeah. Again, this could stir a lot of controversy. It's just I never, actually, I'll tell you, I used to wear a little face paint or a mask when I squirrel hunted a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, because I used to sneak a lot and hunt squirrels with a 22.
Yeah.
And squirrels were very I think, to that white face, like at the time,
Well,
but I've not had a lot of problems with the deer with it.
we should be fair. You are wearing foundation right now.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
for the
It's called
cameras.
gray. It's called grayness.
For the camera. All right. Well, should we throw a shout out there real quick?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We got a shout out on YouTube from Shambro's Adventures. Someday I hope to be a Shambro, but I probably won't. Best podcast ever. I learned a lot from you guys.
Maybe from the guests.
Yeah, definitely not from us. And then I meant to mention a few episodes back, but I ran into rack packer Jeremy Pugh out in
Pew, pew.
Las Vegas. Pew pew.
That's very random because he lives here in the St. Louis area.
Yeah. He was at the St. Louis gate, so we were all going back
less
to the
random, I
same
guess.
the same location. But yeah, it's always fun to run into.
Speaking of the
Rack
Rack
Pack,
Pack,
wild.
all right, we got some new members. If you want to join the Rack Pack, it's a private Facebook group. All you got to do is search in 100% Wild Rack Pack. It'll come up, answer a few questions. You're in. A few new members. We got Tyler Rice, Rhett Rusko, Zach Bricks, Heath Stewart, John Grabowski, Travis Lawson. Welcome to the debauchery. All right. Ben?
One thing I was going to say quick, Matt, like,
Yep.
going back to the killing thing, or like you got that guy on your head, on your shoulder all the time.
Yeah.
One thing that really helped me like years ago, because I'll be honest, when I was young, like before my, probably, 16 to 18, I went through a phase where I felt like I hacked a lot of deer. I mean, I killed deer, but I also hacked a lot.
Hmm.
It was like I went through this phase where I was like seeing brown and letting go. I just wasn't concentrating. I wasn't honing in. I wasn't truly understanding the deer more and whatever. But then once I kind of got a grip on that, because I used to get a little bit nervous, but now I don't at all. I mean, almost to a point where it's like, it sucks to a degree, because I don't get like nervous about it. Like if I see a big deer, where I do get a little worked up is that I have to start calling to one and have to interact with it.
Yeah.
That really jacks me up. Like that's why I like the whole rattling and calling to deer and doing that, because I love that interaction. But one thing I have learned is like, being so burned in on a deer on the kill zone that like that is the only thing I'm watching. Like I'll be watching maybe his reactions or body language, but I'm never looking at the rack. I'm never thinking about anything else but killing that deer.
Mm.
I don't care what anybody else thinks I'm going to kill this deer. If that's the deer I want, I am going to kill him. And I actually made a mistake on a deer a couple years ago. I called the Insider. He was a lot younger deer than I realized. During the trail camera pictures and different things, I thought he was older. He looked bigger. Everybody said the same thing. We thought he was an older deer. I don't know what it was about this deer but he wasn't. By the time, after I killed him, he was so little. We're like, how can that even be the same deer? But it was. But when I saw his rack in the timber and I was calling to this deer, at that point, I lost sight of everything else but looking at his kill zone. Like I wasn't even worried. Didn't even pay any attention to his body size. I was just so laser focused on looking for that shot and making that happen that maybe that's something that can help you as far as, also like with those decisions, or, it's like you almost got to hate him for a second.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's not a level of focus. I'm dialed in.
How is your focus, Matt?
It's
focused.
Phorm energy. My focus, the Biden interview. I'm better than ever.
Sometimes I think about the level of my focus.
It's not so much that, because I don't get nervous. It's not those things. It's hard to put my finger on it. It's almost like in the moment of truth, I am more concerned of everything lining up 100%. And as you know, like that's not reality. Like I'm wanting too many things to line up.
You
to
want
be
the ideal
perfect.
circumstance.
Yeah. And as you know, like it's never ideal. And so I think when things start moving a little faster, that's when I fail to always keep up with it. And it's not always been that way. It's weird. It's been like a rut I've been in the last couple of years. And it used to not be that way at all. It was, to your point, it was see the deer and whatever I had to do to kill him and kill them. But then you have a tough year and maybe it's another tough season. And then I think it's the weight of all of it has combined to put a undue pressure that I can't get rid of, almost like a damn cloud above me. And because it's not the level of focus, it's not the excitement level, it's none of those things. And I think about our mutual friend, Jim Tomey, and slow the game down, and it's just like, I feel like I've slowed it down, but it's right at the moment of truth where it's like, I don't know, something creeps in. I don't know what, I don't know what that is.
Well, there's no doubt, Matt, though, that you have had, well, you and Taylor both, you have these huge shoes that you guys feel like you have to fill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like for the brand itself, which is that's a huge weight, and like people are depending on you also because you're the younger generation, you're coming up and that's a lot to weigh on you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, cause I feel the pressure having my own show, trying to make sure, and this is something that really sucks because I get these comments at times that like, we feel like you're just a commercial anymore. Well, you know what? I feel like that too. Yeah. Sometimes, but I have to be like, if you want to watch my show, this is what it takes because editing is not cheap. Having, a show like this and taking the time to be able to go do it, I still work a regular job. And so like, you have to fit all this in. And I don't think there's enough appreciation for what we go through to give people free content to watch.
Well, and I think that's where some of these people that are getting rolled up in, whether it's allegations or charges or whatever, poaching, this, that, or the other, I think they let the pressure take hold in a different way. Whereas like I know you as well, like our ethics and morals won't allow us to go down that path, right? Like that's just how we were raised. Like Ralph and Lucille and then Mark Terry, like we won't go down that path. But I think some people are like, oh, it's the pressure I got to. Well, no, we got a system in place where we have the team and we have enough people killing big deer. Like we don't have to rely on Matt Drury killing 5 big deer.
Thank God.
Because we wouldn't be in business. But I think that's where some people go south and that pressure just takes a hold and they're making poor decisions because of it. And it's just like, man, you can't go down that path.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Well, there's no doubt that, Matt Jennings is sitting there going, what in the world? Like, he is in regret city right now. And it's probably really made him think about things, just like we all do. Like, you make mistakes in life and you got to try to learn from them. I mean, unfortunately, he made a mistake that's going to cost him dearly. Yeah. Just like the guy that CJ Alexander in Ohio 2 years ago trying to get by with the big Ohio buck that's, like you're going to get caught. Like
this day and age, there's too much technology. Like I don't know how guys don't think they can get caught. Everything on your phone is tracking you. Everything, even if you ask it not to, it's tracking you. Yep. So like I don't know, the DNRs, like they're savvy enough. Like
dude, there's Mr. Green Jeans is one of the most savviest.
Yeah. You're not going to beat it.
No idea what those guys.
And they might take 5 years to bust your butt, but they're going to take the time they need to. So I don't know why people think they can get away with
it. They are
stuff.
not in a hurry. They're like slow marinating corn liquor. They wait, I know a couple of them really good. And it's pretty interesting the things that how they do things.
Yeah.
Most people hang themselves.
Yeah.
But I do want to borrow that intro that guy used for the next pod episode.
I've never seen
and just be like,
show. I don't know.
You guys already know us. And if you don't, by the end of this episode, you're going to know us.
Or maybe not.
Probably not. That's so cringy. Oh.
Well, what about you, Tim? Are you on anything? This year you got any big bucks lined up?
I don't have to divulge that information, Ben.
That's a no. Hold on.
I don't think so, Tim.
Usually not. Yeah, I'm good for like a 2.5-year-old every now and again. No, actually, I went out a couple nights ago and I saw it could be one of the biggest deer of my life. Nice. If he sticks around and is huntable. So that's exciting, but I've just got a few cameras out. I still have a bunch of work to do to get things out. And yeah, I mean, that fool's gold thing is so true. There's such a caveat to Intel at this time of year.
I don't know. I never have, but maybe because of the setup, like I can't go to my farms and scout them, watching bean fields from a mile away. Like that's not how the properties lay out. That's not what I can do as far as like how far away they are. So
yeah,
I never get too excited over velvet other than that, like you said, the deer's alive or he's not alive or what's
have the possibility.
Yeah, the possibility that he's on the property or around the property. I got cameras out, in the counties here in Missouri where I could put out corn, or some sort of supplement. I do that, and that helps to just kind of have an inventory. But really, it's not until closer to September, or after they disappear for the week or two when they shed their velvet and they come back. That's when I start really thinking like, okay, I have a legitimate shot at catching up with XYZ deer.
My thing right now is just getting the cameras out because I probably won't have time when we get closer to season. I don't want to be out there on the property. So get them out there, like put them in, upload twice a day, like low power kind of. I don't need dings every time a squirrel runs past the camera. And just do a daily thing. So. All right, Ben, thanks so much. Hey, if folks are not subscribed to the Whitetail Edge podcast, it's a really good one. That interview you did with Cairo and her parents was really impactful. So I'm glad you're out there doing that. But yeah, definitely worth giving Whitetail Edge a follow, podcast and on social.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of podcasts, but we're going to start doing them a little more. I just acquired some office space, and hopefully, I always say we're going to find more time to do it. But man, the podcast just seems to be like the last thing that I seem to gravitate towards, just because I got so much other stuff to do, buying timber and trying to move log and crews, things like that. But, plus all the deer stuff. And, but I do want to do more podcasts, but I want to make them a little more impactful. I know I can kind of come off as like this. A lot of guys say I come off as this hard nosed, like arrogant sometimes. It's just, I'm old school, man. Like I literally grew up in an era of like, get it done no matter what. Like, I don't care if your freaking back hurts, you're unloading that hay wagon, or you're going to grade that concrete today, or you're going to cut all this timber. It's just the way it was. Like, we were just raised different. And so sometimes I come off a little bit, but dude, I have a huge heart for the Lord. I have a huge heart for the, kids like Cairo. I mean, and we're doing a parade for her, or like a thing this Saturday, actually, that you bring it up. And I mean, Cairo's on her last, I mean, she's really, it's really rough right now. But we're trying to do a little bit of stuff that she can, maybe see. And our local town there is getting together and doing like a parade for her. And people are making floats out of their UTVs or trucks, and there's a little silent raffles and stuff like that, just to kind of help her parents out with some bills and things. But yeah, I mean, it's in all reality, taking everything else aside, loving people, loving one another, and like just being there for one another is so important. It's like we all can have different views on things, but man, I'm just telling you, life is so short. This deer hunting, all this stuff isn't going to mean jack when you're at that point, and I mean, as we get older and you see, like I text Matt a while back. Well, actually, he posted a story with his kids and when they were on vacation, and I can't remember exactly what I said to you. I was just like, dude, these are the times, and he knows what I mean. Like, but it's like, you suck these times up because they don't last forever. Like, and, but with that being said, like, and as Tim, I mean, there's an opportunity to have a different view of life if you follow the Lord and things like that. But it's, that's one thing I've always respected. Like, I guess is why I always connected with the Drury so much, was because, Mark and Terry aren't the kind of guys that I guess would actually like just come out all the time and be like, oh, but they believe and they have morals when it comes to like this industry and their families, and like just the way they treat their inner circle of people and even people around them. I mean, I've seen, Mark be at a Mexican restaurant and some strange person that's just been eyeballing the whole time, wanting to talk to him so bad, and I've seen Mark literally be the nicest guy in the world with that, when he probably deals with that constantly, because I've been around some famous people, they don't act that way.
Mark walks up. He's like, "You probably know who I am." And by the end of this interaction, you will.
Would you like a margarita?
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that's why, there's just so many different things in life, like owning land or having money or this. It's not all that important. I mean, this is great stuff that we're doing, and it's, but I don't know.
If you're a Gen Zer and you're wondering whether or not to follow Whitetail Edge, Ben knows what he's talking about, and all this content is gluten-free.
Yeah. WhitetailEdge.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great follow. I appreciate you, Ben. Appreciate the friendship and the years of showcasing your talents and abilities to everybody to kind of help others pick up a thing or two in the whitetail woods. So best of luck this fall. Hopefully we'll catch up again after you killed a big old giant deer, and we'll have another podcast with you.
Well, there's no saying. I mean, there's no truer statement than saying that I would not be in the filming industry if it wasn't for my wife and it wasn't for Drury Outdoors.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. I mean, you guys gave me the groundwork, and that's where it started.
You ran with the ball from there, though. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay, guys. Thanks.
Yep. Until next time. Peace out.
See ya.
DeerCast movement prediction and mapping tools combined with our exclusive virtual rain gauges gets you ahead of your game.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.